Good morning, my friends. Today is a Friday episode. I haven't done the random bits for a while, and often with random bits, it's really me. I'm just going to share a bit about my own journey, where I'm at. So, yeah, because a lot of times in this position, like I'm in a position of leadership or influence, people tend to be like, oh, you've got it all figured out, or we tend to come across that way. And well, that's not always reality, right? So yeah, we're going to talk about that today in episode 13 of the Random Bits of Facing Terror, Growing Up, and Being Yourself. I got a little eye itch. If you're new to me, I'm Marshall Berkshire, and I help codependents rediscover their well-being and their happiness after codependency and narcissistic abuse. I'm excited to have you here. So before we get started, I need to share this out to the community. Community is your safe haven here on the internet, where you can find tools, guidance, and support in your journey back to you and back into your own well-being, your own happiness, and actually having peace of mind, enjoying your life, things like that. Links above on Facebook, below on YouTube, and if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And let me know in the comments below. Just say hi, let me know you're here, let me know how you're doing. So, facing terror, growing up, and being yourself. There's a little caveat here. I often tend to share my own experiences in the random bits, and that is both an act of courage on my part and a demonstration of what it means to really live beyond codependency, in my opinion. Because being who we are, being ourselves, for instance, this can have an intrinsic terror to it, especially if we've grown up with a dominant experience of being rejected for who we are, being rejected for the way we do things, for how things work for us, and for what we want or what we need. And so we become conditioned, we create emotional association with our needs, our wants, or being ourselves, with a feeling of anxiety, of panic, of terror. Now, I grew up with an anxiety disorder. I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety when I was 8 and a panic disorder when I was 19. And for most of my life, I believed that I was just an anxious person, that this is the way it is. This is how Marshall is. Marshall is anxious. My life will always be anxious. And I always associated anxiety with being myself. I associated terror with doing things that mattered to me, or being my own individual person, or pursuing things that mattered to me. And I associated growing up with being a conformist, with being obedient, with doing what other people thought I should be doing and being what other people thought I should be and having what they thought I should have. This is where codependency really came alive for me, because I was anxious. I was seeing myself as an anxious person, and so I constantly had to regulate other people for me to feel safe, or situations had to be ideal in order for me to feel secure enough to be myself. This technically is attachment trauma. It's a relational trauma that we experience through criticism, through being shamed, through being bullied, through being rejected, through being criticized, through being mocked. There's quite a bit of that in my early childhood. There was a lot of social abuse in grade school and middle school that conditioned me to fear being myself. And then the instability of my childhood with the way parents behaved created a lot of anxiety in me. This became the origin of my anxiety, but because it had been so normal for so long, I thought I was just an anxious person. But in doing the work, in regulating the nervous system. And if that's something you struggle with or you want assistance with, in the description above on Facebook, below on YouTube, there is a tools section, and in there's the Be Calm system. It's free. You can get it. And I'll give you a series of 6 trainings that assist you in building more capacity and regulating your nervous system. What I found in regulating this and doing this frequently and doing this practice called holding space for whatever shows up for me, I have discovered, like in the last week or so, I'm not an anxious person. I'm a person that went through trauma early in my life that then became lodged in my body, which was what trauma does, and showed up as a constant anxiety and as a perspective or belief that people are unsafe. And this was a big revelation for me because I'm like, wow. Because I know what to do with this now. It's like, ooh, I can grow myself here and become more connected and available to me here as I realize that my experience in my history, my experience with my mother and my father were very unstable. They were very not safe. No wonder I had anxiety. There's this practice I teach called Acknowledge, Legitimize, and Integrate, ALI. And that's what that is. It's like, I'm anxious because of what I've been through, not because of who I am. Okay? And this is a concept I teach frequently, but it just clicked in me, in my body. My body goes, I'm not an anxious person by default. I'm an anxious person because of what I've gone through. So my nervous system's on edge. It's hyperactive. It's vigilant. It's watching for things. Because that's what its normal has been. Now, this took several years of work. This wasn't like, click, did this, did that, boom. Now, I had to become attuned to this. Part of our work in growing and healing is persistence in our healing. Because that persistence rewrites our neurological pathways. It creates different emotional associations, different awarenesses and space within us that allows us to open up to even bigger possibilities and options. Because I'll kind of paint the timeline picture. The first time I can remember not having anxiety, like really relaxing and realizing I don't have to have anxiety, and realizing I forgot to have anxiety, was in May of 2008. I was watching an episode of Battlestar Galactica and realized I'd forgot to be anxious at work that day. I realized in that moment I didn't have to be anxious. Now, in that particular point of time, I didn't have a lot of capacity to influence how much anxiety was present in my world or how to respond to it, but I did discover that maybe I don't have to feel this all the time. And the word have to is really, that phrase is really important, because a lot of times we, because of our dominant experience, feel like we have to feel a certain way about something because we've always felt that way about something. This broke that association. It's like, maybe I could feel differently about it. That moment allowed me to get to this moment where it's like, I am not an anxious person. I am just a person that went through hell. No wonder I'm anxious at times. It's just an amazing little shift for me. This is part of growing up. Growing up isn't just about maturity and taking ownership of things and being direct, clear, and simple in our communication and yada, yada. It's also realizing what we're not. It's realizing what we have assumed we are based on our dominant experience, challenging that, and discovering who we want to be. And then we get the chance to choose it. We get the chance to have it. We get the chance to create it for ourselves. And that is what it means to be yourself. That's what it means to discover and live you. That's the magic here. That's the result we build as we persist in this. Because I know this is hard work, and this is where the facing terror comes in. we are kind of in a weird catch-22. Okay? I need to face the scary things to grow, to heal, to be happy. But I have no guarantee that I'm going to get what I'm hoping for. The unknown is scary. So we're scared if we do, scared if we don't. That's a big deal. And so I want to honor that. I want to bring some light to that. We're doing courageous work here. We're being very, very deliberate in how we respond to things and learning about ourselves and taking big risks, breaking free of old identities, of old paradigms, of old expectations and beliefs. This is not easy work. And so, in that light, take a moment and open up to the idea of, what if all your effort and everything you've been doing is an act of love for yourself, an act of courage, a demonstration of loyalty to you? Because that's really where it's at. It's not easy work. We're going to feel like we're not getting anywhere. We're going to feel like we're screwing it up. We're going to feel like we're not succeeding. That's normal. Those are usually the hardest parts of the journey. And then we get a breakthrough. Bloop. Because really that sense of difficulty we feel in our body and our mind, part of that is somatic resistance. Like your body's like, I don't want to. This is so abnormal. Part of that's neurological resistance. The brain's like, new pathway. And then it clicks, breaks through. Sometimes that takes some persistence. Kaya says, sounds like you're freeing yourself more and more. Yes, thank you. Thank you. And yes, it is. It's super courageous what we are doing. Being ourselves is super courageous, especially in the idea of, hey, being myself got me abused, it got me harmed, it got me screamed, it got me hit, it got me violated in some way. I mean, one of my earliest memories was in school being mocked because I colored a picture my way, not their way. Because I saw the world differently than they did. I didn't have friends. I was baited with friendship. Friends would be like, here's a friend, I'll be your friend, and then they would set me up for some sort of social humiliation. Yeah, it happened frequently. So I was like, being myself is going to get me harmed. Now being myself, it's not about what it gets me anymore. It's about what I appreciate about it, what I value about it, what matters to me now, because it's my satisfaction. And I have friendships and relationships. I have love. I have success in my world because I approached life from that angle now. So that is my random bits for today, guys. I appreciate you. Honor and respect what you're doing. It's courageous work. It's okay if you're scared. It's okay if it's difficult, because it is. I've got your back, and I see you, and I believe you. So remember that you're worth knowing, loving, and keeping. And I will see you guys in our next training.